Long before European explorers traversed the Rocky Mountains or settled along the rivers of what is now Colorado, the region was home to diverse Native American civilizations. For thousands of years, tribes such as the Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Apache adapted to the varied landscapes, from the towering Rockies to the rolling plains and river valleys. These communities developed complex social structures, spiritual practices, and survival strategies tailored to their environment. The Ute people, residing primarily in the mountainous regions, relied on hunting, gathering, and seasonal migration to sustain their communities. They tracked elk, deer, and bison, harvested wild plants, and crafted tools, clothing, and shelters from the resources available in the mountains. On the eastern plains, the Cheyenne and Arapaho followed the great bison herds, living in teepees that allowed mobility and adaptation to the prairie environment. Rivers like the South Platte, Arkansas, and Colorado provided water, fish, and fertile soil for cultivation and trade. Trade networks flourished among these tribes, connecting Colorado to other regions in North America. They exchanged goods such as hides, tools, pottery, and food, while cultural ideas, rituals, and stories traveled along these routes. The region's natural resources, including minerals, timber, and game, played a vital role in sustaining communities and shaping their economies long before European contact. The first Europeans arrived in the 16th and 17th centuries, primarily Spanish explorers searching for gold, silver, and new territories. Francisco Vázquez de Coronado's expedition in 1540 ventured into the region, seeking the fabled cities of Cibola. While the expedition did not find riches, it marked the first documented European presence in the area, introducing new technologies, animals, and diseases that would profoundly impact the native populations. Spanish influence remained largely indirect for centuries, with limited settlement and exploration primarily focused on trade, missions, and claiming territory. In the 18th century, fur trading became a significant driver of European-American interaction with the region. French, Spanish, and later American trappers established trade networks with native tribes, exchanging European goods such as metal tools, firearms, and cloth for furs and hides. Trading posts, often located along rivers and mountain passes, became centers of commerce, communication, and cultural exchange. Forts such as Bent's Fort along the Arkansas River were key hubs where traders, explorers, and native peoples met, fostering both economic activity and complex social relationships. By the early 19th century, the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 and subsequent westward expansion brought increasing American interest to the region. Explorers like Zebulon Pike mapped the area, documented its resources, and provided strategic information for future settlement. Pike's expedition in 1806 to 1807 ventured into the southern Rocky Mountains, naming Pike's Peak, which would later become a symbol of Colorado's rugged terrain and allure. These early explorations laid the groundwork for migration, settlement, and eventual statehood. The discovery of gold near present-day Denver in 1858 triggered the Colorado Gold Rush, attracting thousands of settlers and prospectors from across the United States and beyond. Towns rapidly sprang up along rivers and near mining claims, often in remote and rugged locations. Denver, originally a mining town along the South Platte River, quickly grew into a regional hub of commerce, transportation, and governance. The gold rush brought economic opportunity, population growth, and cultural diversity, but also conflict with native tribes, whose lands and resources were increasingly encroached upon by settlers. As mining expanded, so did agriculture, ranching, and infrastructure. The fertile valleys and plains were cultivated for crops such as wheat, corn, and barley, while cattle and sheep grazing became prominent on the plains and foothills. Railroads, including the Denver and Rio Grande Western and the Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe, connected mines, farms, and cities, facilitating trade and accelerating economic development. These transportation networks also enabled migration, linking Colorado to the eastern United States and international markets. The interplay between natural resources, settlement, and indigenous displacement defined much of Colorado's early history. Treaties and conflicts, including the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864, reflected the often violent clashes between Native Americans defending their homelands and settlers seeking land, gold, and security. Despite these tragedies, Native communities adapted and preserved their cultural heritage, maintaining traditions, ceremonies, and identities that continue to influence Colorado's cultural landscape today. By the mid-19th century, Colorado's growing population and economic importance led to territorial organization. In 1861, the U.S. Congress established the Territory of Colorado, formalizing governance structures, legal systems, and administrative oversight. The territory encompassed diverse regions, from the arid plains to the towering Rockies, necessitating a balance between agricultural development, mining, and settlement. Local governments, courts, and educational institutions began to emerge, creating the foundation for a future state. Colorado's early development was characterized by resilience and adaptation. Miners endured harsh winters and isolated mountain camps, farmers battled droughts and unpredictable weather, and ranchers navigated challenging terrain. Communities forged schools, churches, and social organizations, fostering cohesion and cultural continuity in a rapidly changing environment. These early settlers laid the groundwork for Colorado's enduring identity as a land of opportunity, adventure, and natural beauty. By the late 19th century, Colorado was poised for statehood. Its population, economy, and infrastructure had grown sufficiently to meet the requirements for admission into the Union. Mining, agriculture, and trade had created thriving communities, while railroads and communication networks connected the territory to national markets and political systems. Colorado's path from a land of indigenous civilizations and Spanish exploration to a bustling American territory was a story of adaptation, opportunity, and the transformative power of natural resources and human endeavor. By the late 19th century, Colorado had transitioned from a rugged territory defined by mining camps and frontier settlements into a region ready for full integration into the United States. Its population had grown steadily, its economy diversified beyond gold and silver, and its infrastructure, though still developing, was capable of supporting formal governance. On August 1, 1876, Colorado officially became the 38th state of the United States, earning the nickname the Centennial State, because its admission coincided with the 100th anniversary of American independence. Statehood brought both opportunity and responsibility, setting Colorado on a path toward modernity and economic resilience. The initial decades of statehood were dominated by mining and resource extraction. Gold and silver continued to drive the economy, particularly in regions such as the Rockies, Leadville, and Cripple Creek. Mining towns flourished, attracting prospectors, entrepreneurs, and laborers from across the globe. The influx of immigrants from Ireland, Germany, Italy, and Eastern Europe contributed to a diverse cultural mosaic, with ethnic communities forming around mines and industrial centers. Miners endured dangerous conditions, long hours, and fluctuating commodity prices, fostering labor organization and advocacy for improved working conditions. Coal mining, too, became central to Colorado's industrial landscape, providing energy for railroads, factories, and domestic use. Towns like Trinidad and Pueblo developed around coal deposits, becoming vital hubs of labor, commerce, and transportation. Conflicts over wages, working hours, and union recognition occasionally erupted into violent clashes, most famously the Colorado Labor Wars and the Ludlow Massacre of 1914. These events left an enduring mark on the state, highlighting the tension between labor rights and industrial expansion while shaping Colorado's social and political evolution. Agriculture complemented mining as a stabilizing economic force. The fertile valleys and plains, particularly the Arkansas River Valley and the Eastern Plains, supported large-scale cultivation of wheat, corn, and sugar beets, while cattle and sheep ranching became increasingly prominent. Irrigation projects, including the development of canals, ditches, and later reservoirs, transformed arid land into productive farmland. These advancements allowed Colorado to feed its growing population, supply neighboring states, and diversify its economy beyond the volatility of mineral markets. The arrival of the railroads was transformative. Lines like the Denver and Rio Grande, the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, and the Union Pacific connected Colorado's mines, farms, and cities to national markets. Railroads facilitated migration, trade, and communication, linking remote mountain towns to urban centers and ports. Denver, already an emerging commercial hub, solidified its position as the political, financial, and cultural capital of the state. Other cities, including Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and Fort Collins, expanded rapidly as commerce, industry, and education flourished. Colorado's natural resources were not limited to minerals. Timber from the Rockies provided construction materials for cities and railroads, while water from rivers like the Colorado and South Platte enabled agriculture, urban growth, and early hydroelectric projects. Later, oil and natural gas discoveries in the 20th century added new dimensions to the state's economy, creating jobs, energy infrastructure, and industrial capacity. These developments fostered long-term economic stability while establishing Colorado as a critical resource hub in the western United States. Tourism and recreation emerged as defining features of Colorado's identity during the 20th century. The state's majestic mountains, clear rivers, and scenic valleys attracted visitors seeking leisure, adventure, and health benefits. Ski resorts, particularly in Aspen, Vail, and Breckenridge, became internationally renowned, while national parks like Rocky Mountain, Mesa Verde, and Great Sand Dunes preserved Colorado's natural beauty and attracted tourists from across the nation and globe. Outdoor recreation became integral to Colorado's economy and cultural identity, balancing industrial growth with environmental preservation and public enjoyment of the landscape. Cultural and educational institutions also flourished. Universities such as the University of Colorado, Colorado State University, and the Colorado School of Mines advanced research, engineering, agriculture, and technological innovation. Museums, theaters, and cultural centers in Denver, Boulder, and other cities nurtured arts, history, and science. Immigration and migration brought linguistic, culinary, and religious diversity, while Native American communities, particularly the Ute, Navajo, and Southern Cheyenne, maintained traditions and influenced cultural awareness. Colorado became a state where the interplay of heritage, innovation, and diversity shaped civic life and community identity. The 20th century also saw Colorado navigating social and political challenges. Labor disputes, civil rights issues, and urbanization required careful governance and reform. Progressive movements led to labor protections, public education expansion, and environmental policies. Political leadership balanced industrial growth with conservation, ensuring that Colorado's rivers, forests, and wildlife were managed sustainably even as the population and economy expanded. The state's progressive stance often set it apart from neighboring regions, reflecting its unique combination of natural resources, diverse populations, and visionary leadership. Colorado's role in national defense and industry became pronounced during the World Wars. Military bases, including Fort Carson and Buckley Air Force Base, contributed to defense readiness while stimulating local economies. The aerospace and defense industries, concentrated around Denver and Colorado Springs, provided high-tech employment and innovation. These developments reinforced Colorado's strategic importance and positioned the state as a leader in both industrial capacity and technological advancement. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, Colorado had emerged as a dynamic state balancing economic diversity, cultural richness, and natural preservation. The energy sector, including oil, natural gas, and renewable sources, complemented tourism, agriculture, and industry. Urban centers like Denver and Boulder became hubs for business, technology, education, and arts, while rural communities continued to produce food, preserve heritage, and support outdoor recreation. Environmental conservation, climate awareness, and sustainable development became increasingly important, reflecting Colorado's ongoing commitment to balancing growth with stewardship of its unique landscapes. Colorado's story is one of transformation and resilience. From its Native American roots and European exploration to gold rush towns, territorial organization, and modern economic diversification,